How should I rack my equipment in racks like this? Now, this is a question I was emailed earlier today, and I replied to the email, but I also wanted to do a video because I want to go in a little bit more detail as to why I recommend certain things when racking equipment. Now, as you can see, I've got two racks either side of me, and I want to just talk about what is in the racks and why they are in those racks in particular. Why is this stuff here and why is this gear here? Now, if we first of all, on the right side here, we've got the West Audio Titan racks, and we also have the Tegla gear, and then we have a Antelope A41B. Now, this side is all my mixing gear. All of this side, mixing gear. This side is all mastering gear. Now, where I use my patch bay, I also have 3 of my Lynx Aurora N converters going into my patch bay. Now, I use a flock patch bay, so I've got this digitally recallable patch bay. I can also add some of my mastering gear into the mastering chain. Now, over here we have the Betamaker EQ and the Betamaker bus comp. That is a channel strip within that setup. Well, I also have a channel strip here, which is the West Audio NG bus comp and the Carnaby HE2 and also the Mammoth. The rest of it is over here, is in the West Audio rack and the Carnaby. That's on my mix bus. So here's the thing. When it comes, for me, I keep everything in arm's reach because I obviously want to reach it and I want to be able to use it without coming out of the sweet spot too much. So the gear that is, here's the thing, the gear that is used a lot and is somewhat fiddly, I have that very much within arm's reach. Things like the Betamaker DAF limiter, that's a very simple unit to use, so I put that down the bottom. That's fine down the bottom because you're only reaching down to it and adjusting a few things. The 500 series West Audio stuff, however, that's very fiddly. So you really want to kind of sit on those for a little while and dial in the settings. So they're very much kind of pride of place at the tops of the racks. Now, another thing to mention in terms of the racks is you want to obviously have blanking plates between your gear. You don't want to cover any of the vents, basically. So you want to have a blanking plate between the gear. You don't want to sandwich them together. I highly recommend getting the 1/3 U's. You can see here, these aren't 1U, these are 1/3 U. So you put 3 of them in and you have basically 1 U is taken up by splitting and having space between each of the units. Now, here's another big tip is I have what I call cold units and hot units. Certain gear gets very hot. Certain gear, when it gets hot, make sure it's at the top. Right? This is just something I do. Put the hot gear at the top. And the reason for the hot gear being at the top, don't put all your hot gear in one rack because that rack is going to get really hot and it's going to heat up. Now, if you put your hot gear at the bottom, what's it going to do? It's got the heat rises. It rises up into the colder gear, which is above it. It starts heating it up. So put your hot gear at the top. That's why you'll see the lull sitting at the top here. And that as well is why you'll see the rears at the top there, because those rears get really hot. There's tubes inside those. Now, if I had those below and underneath the Hyperions, that would heat up the rack above it. So you've got to bear in mind those sorts of things as well. Now, another thing to bear in mind is cable management in terms of I have, for instance, my flock and all my cables to the mastering chain all run round to one side. So you haven't got cables that run either side. Having your interface in a certain position. So, for instance, my interface for my Lynx Aurora N32, which serves all of this rack, is sitting under there. And that then has nice short cables that run up to all the gear that's in that rack. Now, if I had my interface over here and then I was connecting gear that's over there, I've got to run a cable all the way around the back, round here, and then it's a massive long cable and it's unnecessary. My interface that's there serves this rack. Also power supplies, for instance, I've got power supplies underneath. Now they serve each rack. So you've got a power supply in each rack, comes up, powers each rack. So this is the thing with racks, and this is the question the guy kind of asked me, is all these little things that you don't think about when kind of building a rack. He was asking whether I put gear of certain brands together, and yes, I do. I generally do, because like there's no reason other than it looks really nice. Like I've got the West Audio Tube Comp coming. That's currently stuck in customs at the moment, which is really annoying. But the Tube Comp is going in there, and when that comes on Monday, that's going in there, and then you'll have the Tube Comp, the West Audio Tube Comp, the West Audio Tube EQ, and the West Audio NG Bus Comp. So the three of them sit together in a really nice rack. Same with the 500 series. You know, that looks great all together. If I had one over there, one down there, another one over there, another one over there, it wouldn't look as good. It looks really good like that. I like the fact that there's 5 units all together. Same with as well is I've got the Tegeler gear sitting there, so I've got like this kind of white and blue, and look, there's no other reason for that other than it actually just looks nice, and I like the way that looks. Same with over here, I like this kind of black rack as such. So yeah, I mean, they're my little tips when it comes to a rack, and the main one is allowing for airflow and making sure you've got a slot in between each of your units. So I see so many times, I see racks on top of racks. Now you can have cold racks. Now cold racks, things like the Betamaker EQ and the Betamaker compressor, they're relatively cold. Same with the Carnaby. Is that quite? No, that's reasonably hot. But with cold gear, stuff that doesn't get hot, you can stack it on top of each other, no problem. And when you look at a piece of gear, you'll see a vent. The vents are either in the top or either in the sides. Don't cover those vents because they're there for a reason, so don't cover them. Always put like these little rack slots in between, like 1/3 U. You can get them on all metal parts. They're brilliant, and they don't take up as much space as like a full 1U rack. So yeah, have that. Make sure you have that airflow in between each of them. You don't cover them up. It just allows the air to come out the top of it and actually get out the back of the rack or out the front of the rack. It doesn't just kind of go into the rack above it, which you don't want. It's going to heat up the one above it, and you'll cause all manner of problems because, you know, these sorts of pieces of equipment, they're not designed. Well, they are designed. The gear that gets hot is designed to get hot. It can handle being hot. But the gear that isn't hot don't obviously heat that up because it's not designed necessarily to be heated up by the unit below it. Because some of this gear, you can cook an egg on it, especially when I'm doing these videos and I have to turn the AC and the fans off and everything. It gets really hot in here. So yeah, that's a massively important one. But yeah, look, this is the answer to the guy's question. You know, that's how I rack all my gear. You'll notice if you watch any of my videos, every couple of months the racks all change round because I'm always trying to find the kind of perfect rack positioning for everything, and you do find things over time. But don't be scared to kind of take something out, move it around. The other thing to actually bear in mind is as well is some gear. None of this gear in here, but some gear that I have had in the past. Can't think what it was at the time. It was the Buzz REQ 2.2. That will pick up on other tube gear. So if you have that close by, it does pick it up, and that's something you've got to keep in mind. Now, a really easy, simple way of monitoring that is to just put something like FabFilter Pro L2, just a limiter, smash the gain all the way up to 36 dB, smash it all the way up, look at Q4, look at the EQ, look at the analyzer, and you'll see what's happening with regards to that surface noise. Now, your surface noise generally is quite high at the top end, and it will roll down and it will be nice and flat. If you've got problems, really, you've got these little bumps in the low end. Now, generally speaking, some bad gear has that sort of kind of bad grounding and such, but some good gear also has that as well. But it's often a case of you've got something that's picking up off another unit. Like if I had my Buzz REQ 2.2 and that is a high-end piece of gear, if I had that next to a tube unit, you would pick it up. Also as well is some gear has got what is it, microphonic valves inside, you know, so the valves can, like if you've got a unit that's got this kind of transformer in it that's like that can be picked up onto the other rack. So like things like that, they're all things that you've got to take into account when kind of selecting where to put your racks. One thing to do is when you slot things in and build your racks, at every stage monitor using Pro Q4 the surface noise. And if you put something in and it's like, oh, where's that bump in the low end come from? Let me take that. Oh, when I take that in and out, it stops. Right, that unit cannot go near that unit. Right, so we put that over there. And you can then move things around. So you have certain pieces of gear that's slightly problematic. And that's really something that you got to kind of take into account when kind of selecting. It's not a case, and it really isn't a case of just going, right, that will slot in there, that will go there, that will go there, that will go there, and then just forgetting about it. That's not how you fill your racks. You have to be very selective of, right, that's going to go in there, but if that goes in there, that's cold and the stuff underneath it is hot, that's going to heat it up. There's so many manner of things that you got to think about. But look, I hope this video helps, and it gives you something to think about that you maybe wouldn't have done before. So yeah.